Hi, everyone. This is Aaron Larson, Executive Editor of Power Magazine, and you're listening to the Power Podcast. On today's episode, I'm joined by Kristen Esterby. Kristen is the Human Resources Director for MD&A. I've also got Charles Monaster, the General Manager of Technical Services with MD&A, and Colin Baker, a Field Engineer with MD&A, on the episode today. First off, Kristen, can you tell a little bit about yourself and what you do with the company?
Sure. Thanks for having us. As you had stated, my name's Kristen Esterby. I'm the Director of HR for MD&A. Been with the company for a little over 2 years and in HR for 20 plus years. With MD&A, it's a unique challenge right now that we're seeing as far as the workforce, not only coming out of COVID, but we do have an aging workforce. So as our experienced professionals and engineers approach their retirement, we've taken steps as a company to ensure a successful transition while investing in the continuous development of our employees.
Thanks. Charles, can you tell a little bit about yourself and what you do with the company?
I've been in the power business for 35 years, 20 years with MD&A, primarily running the alignment organization, the alignment group, doing laser alignments on turbines, but I also have the balance engineers that fall under my area. And in the last 15 years or so, I've been dealing with mentoring our new hires, taking college graduates and turning them into field engineers. So that's some of the things that I'm involved with.
And last but not least, Colin, can you talk a little bit about what you do with the company?
Yeah, so I'm a field engineer with MD&A. I hired on about a little under 2 years ago. I went through MD&A's EIT program, which is where they kind of train us to become field engineers on our own, and that's where I am now. So right now I'm at my first night shift job in Wyoming, and I'm kind of using what I learned over the last 2 years that Charlie helped to organize to put us through training.
Thanks. To kick things off, I guess, Kristen, from your position, as Human Resources Director, how has this been affecting, your workforce at MD&A?
I think one thing to say is we have a very, very dedicated workforce. So even with our folks that are approaching retirement and starting to look down that path, they're not necessarily eager to get to retirement, I would say, just yet, which has been helpful. That helps us build some of that capability further out and further down into the organization. And some of that's done through a couple different things that we've been doing, one being around succession and talent planning. We've really moved away from the old, I guess you could say, rack and stack of our employees and take the time out and talk about each individual's performance, their goals, what they've done as far as development, and where do they want to go in their future, and build those plans, both individual talent plans, development plans for our folks, but also succession planning so we can see where we are as an organization for the future, where we may need to focus to get more talent, whether it's external or develop our internal talent to take on some of our future and current key leadership roles. Some of the other things we have is a couple of different development trainings and leadership trainings. One is we launched last year a series called Leading Effectively at Power, or we call it LEAP, our LEAP program. And what we do is we select about 25 leaders from across the company and bring them through a week-long training. It's cross-functional, cross-divisional. So folks are meeting folks from different divisions, building their network as they're getting into their leadership roles. And the week-long program consists of things where they learn more about themselves as a leader, about their style, how they like to communicate, maybe how they handle changes in the environment, in the workforce, but also go through kind of core things that you need to know as a leader, such as finance. How do you budget? The legal side, building a contract with a customer, export and import, different things like that. So it's a very well-rounded program and a busy 5 days. Additionally, we're launching in June a pilot series with one of our divisions, which we're calling kind of Leadership in HR 101, kind of the backbone of being a leader, what you need to know. And then from there, we'll look to launch that out across the organization. And I'd say lastly is another program around our mentoring program. We have 2 programs in the works. One is, overall formal mentoring program where we're partnering experienced leaders, employees with some of our newer employees coming in. to help develop them, understand where they want to go, and keep them engaged in their development while they're here. And the other piece on mentoring is we're in the process of building out a technical specific mentorship program where we'll look to take some of our more senior engineers, technical employees, and partner them with, again, our newer folks coming into the workforce to learn and, keep that knowledge within MD&A and within the company.
I know from my own past experience, I didn't always know what I didn't know. So are you finding that as people go through these programs, they're learning just new things about being a leader and how to go about managing people in a new way that maybe they had never thought of before?
Absolutely. I think one of the greatest things is when we have cross-functional, cross-divisional programs, they're not only learning from instructors, but they're learning from each other, what works for them and their group with their team. I think another thing is key is the flexibility as much as we can, depending on, if you're in the field or if you're in an office professional type role, that flexibility is key. And how do you manage teams that could be virtual or sitting in the office right next to you, or a combination of both, right? That's something we've seen drastically change coming out of the pandemic, and don't see that changing anytime soon. So I think those are some key learnings is learning about themselves and how to adapt to the different folks around them, whether it's on their teams or their peers, and how do you lead and manage through that.
I guess another question I have is about how you select the people that you decide to move up the ladder. I know a lot of workers enjoy their job. They like being hands-on and doing the work and turning the wrenches. How do you identify the people that really want to be the leader of that group or that team?
It's really through conversations, not only with the employees during their maybe performance review or just a weekly or monthly catch up that they have with their leader, gathering that information, understanding where they are at in their career, where they want to go as far as goals, but also some of the observations we see, on a day-to-day basis in interactions, whether it's out on a job site with customers, and just observing is, our employees stepping up and kind of leading the team. Or are they, kind of more to your point, just enjoy turning that wrench and doing the work? So it's identifying that and then getting our leaders together as a team, a cross-functional team, and having those conversations. What are we learning about our folks out there? Where are we seeing successes? How can we engage somebody in a way, maybe bring them onto a different project or task them with a different assignment that might stretch them a bit to see, if the employee is enjoying it, are they learning? Are they developing? Is it successful for the company as well? So, it's very much a team effort, and it's something we do on a regular basis throughout the years, get together and you have these development conversations, not only as a leadership team, but also with our employees.
Mm-hmm. And Charles, I'd like to turn to you. I know you mentioned the Engineers in Training program. Can you talk a little bit more about that and kind of how you see that fitting in?
When we started out back in the early 80s, we started out as a company who tended to hire engineers in the industry who were very experienced. And back around 2009, we started to realize that those people were becoming a little bit more, a little harder to get, a little harder to find. So we started hiring a few engineers a year. Some years one person, some years 2-3 people, maybe even a little bit more. And we developed an in-house program where we would bring in generally recent graduates, within a year or 2 or 3 out of school, and, put them through some classroom training, but then a structured on-the-job training where we would have weekly meetings, reviewing, the activities on the job sites. And we'd put the young engineers with very experienced project managers and technical directors that are at the sites, the field engineers who have been doing this for many years. And so there's many different technical aspects to the job that they're tasked with becoming proficient at and gaining knowledge on. So, like I mentioned earlier, the good part of the work is on the job sites. However, there is some structured classroom training, which is integrated into it. In recent years, we've started to increase our hiring into the EIT program as a continuation of the difficulty in trying to find experienced people. So So now we're hiring we're actually targeting about 10 people a year now, and we're just hiring in 5 more like this summer, and then probably another 5 or so at the end of the year. So that's the direction we're heading. And the field engineers that we've hired in since we started the program in 2009, we've hired 39 people into the program, and we have 15 of the graduates working in our business. 11 of them are field engineers, one's a balance engineer, 2 are alignment engineers, and 1 has moved up into management of industrial business. So they're integrating into our company. Our hope is that with greater numbers of graduates, as we start getting more into our company, they'll be able to move into the other divisions, taking the knowledge that they learned in the field and integrating it and using that to help other parts of our business, our repair facility in St. Louis, so that they take that knowledge from the field, the hands-on with customer interface, and be able to better serve the customer because they've had so much frontline experience and bring it to the other parts of our company.
Mm-hmm. Are you finding that the mentors that work in this program get anything out of it? I mean, do they feel the benefit of teaching others is helping them in the long term as well?
I think a lot of them do like doing it. I've never met a field engineer that doesn't like to teach what they know. Fortunately in this business, there's a fair amount of job security, and it's not like you have to worry about a younger guy taking your job. We will readily share all the information we have, all our knowledge to help the next generation. It's a big part of our company, sharing like that.
And continuous learning is another thing that I think is important. Is that something that you have a program that helps encompass that as well?
We do have some advanced classes that we have our engineers go to. There's a number of different tracks that field engineers can take. Our company isn't as large as some of the bigger ones, so there are some limitations. But, if a person's interested in doing something else, those discussions, as Kristen mentioned, are had with the managers during reviews and observations of things that they want to do. And we're made aware of it, and then we try to accommodate where we have a need for those, the skills.
Colin, I guess I'll turn to you. You've gone through this program. What are some of the takeaways or what are some of the real benefits that you feel you gained from this?
Well, I mean, for starters, with working with all these really just great and really smart engineers, you kind of get all of their experience firsthand and you learn kind of what's right and what's wrong. I'll find myself even now talking with other engineers on the job being like, oh, this engineer taught me to use this method or, something along those lines. And then also with all these classes that you're put through, you kind of use all of that knowledge and you learn where to apply it when you're actually out in the field. And it's also a great way to, I guess, network in this industry and in this company because especially with MD&A, you can always reach out to anyone for help. Like everyone is pretty much readily available for any kind of questions or something of that matter. Like I'll always call other engineers if I'm ever confused on anything or have any questions for something because, I mean, I'm still very new in the industry and I'm not going to know everything. And I know people who do know most things. So it's good to get these kind of resources and kind of, I guess, exercise your learnings that you gain through the program firsthand now that you're actually out in the field.
Yeah, I'm sure it's nice to have that Rolodex of experienced engineers you can go call and, this guy knows this guy knows that. I assume you came into this position straight out of college. Is that true, or had you been through other employers?
Yeah, so I hired onto MD&A straight out of school. So I honestly had pretty much zero term experience. And it was a great program to go through because now I'm kind of on my first job. I'm as a field engineer running a crew on my own.
What's that experience been like for you being on this first job? What are some of the things that maybe have come up that you weren't expecting?
I mean, it can be nerve-wracking for sure. Like when you're going through the EIT program, you're always going to have another engineer basically sitting right next to you. So if you ever have a question for them, you can just be like, ask them firsthand. But in the case where you're on your first job, you're obviously not going to have that. There's definitely still experienced people there. Like we have our superintendents who have been on the jobs for many years on their own, and they also know plenty. But I guess a challenge here is kind of embracing that leadership. I know one problem that us new guys will typically have is kind of delegating work, because a lot of us want to get out there and do it firsthand because that's what we feel like we should be doing. But you kind of need to embrace this leadership position and be able to tell other people like what you want to get done and how you want to do it and stuff like that.
Well, this has been a really interesting conversation. Kristen, do you have any other insight that you'd like to add?
I think it's just reiterating some of what both Charlie and Colin said. It's just there's a huge network within MDNA. I would say that, part of the development of our folks is being available and there for them. And I would say that is something MDNA does better than anyone I've seen. We are truly a team, and I think that just supports the development of our folks.
And Charles, do you have any last words or anything that you'd like to add that maybe we haven't talked about?
Just to highlight what Colin had mentioned, his ability and within our company to call anybody at any time if you have something you need an answer for. And that's something that is kind of, I don't know how to express it. It's just one of the things that we do and not afraid to do. So, I'll get calls all times of the day, sometimes way after hours on technical things. And that goes true for any of the people in our business. Colin,
any last words from you?
Not particularly, no. I mean, MDNA just really personally skyrocketed my career growth. I feel like it's just really helps to develop that leadership role, like I said. And again, just for MDNA specifically, there's just a lot of great people in this business and just a lot of great people to rely on. So always very appreciative of that.
Again, for listeners, I've been speaking with Kristen Esterby. She's the Human Resources Director with MDNA. Charles Monaster, he's the General Manager of Technical Services. And Colin Baker, a Field Engineer with MDNA. So again, thank you, all three of you, for sharing your insight about workforce development strategies.
Thank you.